Ladies, how we doing?
We are good. How are you?
I'm
Now,
doing
now that
very
we're
well.
situated.
Jesus. Laura and Brittany, are you both wearing green?
No, I have black on.
I'm wearing green. I never wear green. I this tank top was actually a gift from my friend Liana. So
Ooh.
I love tops where I don't need to wear a bra. So it's just better when you have fake titties.
I was just supposed to say I never wear a bra regardless
I
if
know.
I should
See,
or
that was the
shouldn't.
best thing. That was the best thing about buying boobs was that you don't need to wear a bra anymore. Like it's a time investment, it's a confidence investment. So
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
I love that. And if I do wear a bra, I just wear a bra. You know what I'm saying? Like the bra is the top.
Mm.
And that's just,
Yeah.
it just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I love that.
Love that.
Um,
hmm
guys, we have Miss Peachy, Miss Baddie, and Miss Booty in the
That was
house.
out of order. It's Peachy
Oh.
Booty Baddie, dude.
Girl, I am 10 days post show.
I'm sorry.
Like, give me some grace.
I was reading that I should like stop correcting people, so I'm actually gonna like retract that message and just roll with it.
We should just be grateful that I remembered all
No,
three at this
that's
point.
a personality trait. My boyfriend's like that too. Anything I say that's wrong immediately corrects. Personality trait.
Okay,
Good
I
thing.
got you.
Yeah, like she thought your last name was Justice. I was like, nah.
Well, a lot of people do
That
because
could
my
be a last
Instagram
name.
name. Yeah, it's my middle name. It's my last name is Holloman, and I think it's just because my Instagram name is Brittney Justice,
Yeah.
so I think people just even my program from my coach says Brittney Justice. I don't even think he knows that my
See?
name
Okay,
is
so
Brittney
not just
Holloman.
me. Now, was
Yeah,
that like
exactly.
a maiden name or anything like that, or was just a chosen name?
No, my full name is Brittney Justice Holloman.
Oof.
Yeah.
No. I meant
Say it again.
sometimes like your mom's maiden name could have been Justice, and then they use it as a middle name.
Oh,
For,
no.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, no, it's just my dad's last name is Holloman. Brittney Justice Holloman. Yeah.
Got it.
Love it. Love it. But everyone's doing good. Laura, how many days until Italy?
I leave Tuesday night, so I guess we could say like 4.5 ish.
That's fun. That's fun.
Yeah.
When you get to Italy, will it be daytime then or night? Like, how does the time
Yes.
shift
Well,
work?
so technically I'm gone 8 days, but it's really 7 because our flight is at like 5 o'clock p.m. here. But when we land there, because of the time difference, it'll be like 6 a.m. the next day.
You're time traveling.
I am. I'm traveling to the future.
hmm That's cool.
I'm gonna be asking you for updates. Like, hey, what should I do today? Like, how's the weather looking? Like, what's the vibes?
Yeah, everything's gonna be thrown off. My poop o'clock is gonna be so confused. Like, like what are we gonna do? We'll
I love
figure it
it.
out.
I love it. Well, Brittany, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of like a who you are, what you do type of deal, just for those who are living under a rock and maybe are unfamiliar with who the Brittney Justice Holloman is.
You're funny, dude.
Drum roll, please.
Well, my name is Brittney Justice Holloman, and I'm a bodybuilding, and I would just call myself a bodybuilding coach. I have a really big passion for bodybuilding and just building physiques in general. And lately I've been really focused on glute training, and I've started to get really, really good at it. And not just for myself, but for my own athletes. And so I think that that's been a really big driver lately for both what I'm interested in and what I'm good at, and what my content kind of looks like at this point on my social media. And so I think that that was a big driver for this episode too, is just like seeing that growth and kind of starting to niche down. And not only that, I just really liked training hard and technically. So it's one of those things where I would say if I could give you like my specialty, it would be training in general, but specifically focused on lower half, bringing up glutes, and understanding what each person needs to be able to make improvements either to their physique for shows or in general if you're a lifestyle client and want to just make improvements there. Everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but most women when they inquire, they will usually say something about wanting to improve some area down there. And I think that I feel like it's valid. I feel like it's valid now that we are able to, now that we know it's possible. I think there's nothing wrong with that. So we know that that would be much more feasible and a little bit more honorable than just having a BBL, you know? So
Less
it's,
dangerous too.
you know, less dangerous, less money. If you know you can make I was one of those people that thought they couldn't grow glutes. I was one of those people that was like, I can't really, I don't think I would be able to make that happen. I can't grow legs. And then here I am, like, really stepping into a different division and all that. And a lot of that's just due to a lot of research and understanding, like, what I needed and then applying that to other people as well.
So question for you then, is that why you switched to figure? Because you thought you couldn't grow glutes for bikini? Or what was going through your mind when you wanted to do figure and also like women's bodybuilding?
I just wanted to be bigger.
Mm.
I just wanted to be bigger. And so I knew that that was the easiest way for me to be bigger because figure I already had the shape for it. So most people for figure, you have to have the shape. It's a shape division. If you do not have the shape for figure, you can give angles in wellness or even women's bodybuilding and women's physique and bikini. I think that with those divisions, you can definitely create a shape. Whereas with figure, it's a very small population that can be successful with figure because of that. And I was one of them. So I was like, okay, well, that would be the easiest for me to put on the size that I want. And honestly, looking back, it was probably the best move for me. Like, it was the best move for just my learning and understanding how to be a mature athlete and having a good set of knowledge to be able to apply to other people at the same time. And so I just was like, let's do that then. And plus there was a little bit of emotional attachment because my mom did figure and I wanted to be like my mom, or at least like be seen by her as like that connection point. And then I just remember always like liking the division, but wanting a certain type of shape that the division doesn't call for. Like, I would have to focus on an area that might have grown a lot faster than my lower body because I had that limiting belief that I couldn't build legs and I couldn't build glutes. And so that's what I did. But once I removed that limiting belief, I went the direction that I actually wanted. So
I love that. And what I am both inspired by both you, Brittany, and also Laura is the fact that you guys have very similar like bodybuilding stories where it's like you kind of both started in bikini and then both did figure and did pretty well in figure. Laura especially doing it naturally, I believe. Yeah, naturally. And then now you both are growing into wellness. And both of you have had talk both probably to your face and behind your back that they have no business trying to do wellness. How does that make you feel knowing that you're doing wellness and doing it fucking well?
Well, I want to backtrack a little bit because I think that had wellness dropped before I started transitioning to figure, it might have been a different story for me because I wasn't completely clear on what the wellness division was going to be anyway. And so I was like more comfortable with going with figure because that's something I was familiar with. And wellness didn't drop until maybe like 3 months after I was transitioning. And I was like, I was interested, but at the time, people were talking shit on it. And people were like, it's just fat bikini. The same thing people are saying about fit model. And until wellness really developed into what it is now, and it's still growing and developing, people didn't really know what they were looking for. So I was like, I don't want to be like that. So I'm good. Like, but as far as my opinion about doing this and doing it well, yeah, it feels really good. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It feels really good to be able to have side-by-sides where it's like, I can show people like, hey, this is the process of how I'm layering on muscle. This is what my eye sees. This is what I know I need to improve on. If you're doing this, this is what I would do if I were trying to transition from figure or any other division. And I'm very confident in what I'm seeing and how I can improve it. And I can't tell you that I actually felt that way in other divisions prior, including bikini and figure, I was just like training. I was just like trying to get bigger or just dieting and not focusing on all the details that come with training. And I had to get to the point where I was good at this before I could start transitioning to wellness, because wellness is a really tough division. I don't think people understand. They just think it looks cool. But most of these girls are training. I train legs every other day and I don't hit any upper body. And even with the weights that I'm holding for wellness, like RDLs, deadlifts, stuff like that, Bulgarians, they're so heavy that my upper body still grows. So might need to consider like pulling back on some of those exercises as well, and figuring out ways to only hit the lower half of me without stressing the upper body, because I'm growing from just holding things. And so because you get so strong. So if I wouldn't have had that experience in figure and then bikini, I wouldn't be able to tell you I would have the same experience for wellness. So
Laura,
My-
how do you feel about also your journey about doing bikini, figure, and then also entering into wellness division?
So I actually started my first show ever. I did both bikini and figure. I 10 out of 10 did
Me
not
too.
fit it in bikini at that time. I went from gymnastics and being like very upper body dominant to like, I want to be little, and that was never me. I was even as a cheerleader, being like a foot shorter than everyone was still put on a base because I was jacked as a kid. Um, and I wish that I had more education. So the last national show I did for figure was 2019, mind you, on a broken ankle because I was an idiot.
Damn.
Yeah,
Did you have the boot? I'm just
I,
kidding.
no, I broke my ankle the first week of prep and was
Oh my
like,
God.
fuck you. I had a moment of proving to the world because I had just also taken out my implants that broke, that I like had to do it. So I wasn't backing off. And I ended up like winning an overall, doing nationals. I placed 6 in nationals for figure naturally. And the girl who beat me by 1 spot was an Olympian after. So I had no idea what I was doing at the time. No, I knew nothing about training other than train hard and often. I had no like methodology or specificity to my body. I just did everything, So looking back at that time, like wishing I had more education, but also had a realization that what I really needed to do was not stay lean, because I was always lean when I was competing in figure, that I didn't want to grow and be bigger in that way when I wasn't stage lean. So for me, once I decided like this isn't really for me, I don't really want to do this. That was why I considered bikini, because I was like, okay, it kind of like, and I was still teetering, like not fully 100% with feeling confident in my body and totally over body dysmorphia and things like that. So I was like, well, maybe bikini, because I could stay skinny. I don't have to grow a whole lot. Muscle's already there. I like the girly aspects of it. And then the more I got into it, I was like, it just doesn't fit me. And 3 years ago now, when I first started dating my boyfriend, Josh, I was like, I really want to do wellness. Like, I love the look. I like the off-season look. I love the training. I just don't have the genetics for it. And that's not my physique build. Like, what do I do? And he's like, you have the work ethic. So if you want to do it, you can fucking do it. And I mean, I still get opinions now that like, hey, like you could easily do wild bikini, like you wouldn't need the drugs, you would be able to like have longevity in the sport as a pro and la, and like I just don't want it. So
Yeah.
I've always been that person, like if I make up my mind about something, I'm fucking doing it. Get out of my way, I'm going. And if I don't want to do it, you're not pushing me into it either. So
Yeah.
I mean, I feel good with like in the time frame I have had for like I guess you could say 2 years in wellness for the transformation I've made, but like I still want to transform a lot more. Is it realistic with being almost 38? I don't know, but I'm enjoying the process, so I don't care.
I think that really matters too. Is I love the differentiation you have between the cultures of each division, because really that's like for me, that's where I didn't align with bikini. And I knew that I was just a lot more extreme and a lot more intense than that. I'm not saying they're not intense, but they have a certain culture that is just different than figure and wellness and the larger divisions. Same thing with fit model. It's a different culture, which is why there's so much differentiation and discussion on, are those even bodybuilding divisions? Because the bodybuilding culture is very extreme and intense, and like for the most part you're going to get that from those people in the bigger divisions, because what it requires is undoubtedly a lot more, like a lot more focus, a lot more extremity, and a lot more staying in those extremes for a longer amount of time, and it pushes discomfort. And so if you're that type of individual who likes that, it's going to be difficult for you to feel alignment with a smaller division. I'm not saying those divisions aren't beautiful. They are, but there's a clear difference in culture, just like there's a clear difference in culture between men's physique and the larger men's divisions. You can't deny it. I'm sorry, you can't. And so, and the look is different too because of that change in culture. And so I hear you on that. Like, it just doesn't feel like you, because you're invested in a different way, and you like the investment and you like the return on investment when you are actually aligned with your actions within that division and how you're training and how you're eating and how you're pushing.
And truthfully, Brittany, that's why I sent you that WPD, like me having fun, because like, I'll be honest, I don't like being in bikini. I don't. Like, it's not that I don't like or feel pretty when I'm on stage, because of course I feel pretty on stage. Like, it's nice to have like bigger-ish glutes compared to where I started, and especially, you know, coming from an obese background to deeply skinny and not having anything to like what I've built. I am proud of that. But if I could be a big bitch, dude, there'd be no question in my mind. Like, women's bodybuilding, WPD, whatever, like I would do it. But like, realistically, to do well, it's like, if I want to do well, I'll stay in bikini. And right now I'm kind of like in that crossroads, like 10, 11 days post show, where it's like, I want to maybe still stay in bikini and compete, but I also am interested in flirting with a different training style of like, what would it like to be training for WPD? Like, what would that look like? Because it's like, that seems like a lot of fun. And although that would fuck up my ratios and my proportions, if I never compete again, but I'm happy in my body, who the fuck cares?
That was my mindset. Sorry, Laura, do you have something to say?
Go ahead. No, that's exactly it. Is you have to like what you're doing, because your time on stage is such a small fraction of your life in general. So like, factor that in highly.
Yeah, I hear you, Ash, because that's how I felt about wellness when I started transitioning. I was like, you know what? If I'm unsuccessful in this, at least I'm happy.
Yeah.
At least I'm happy. At least I like the way that I look. At least I am proud of this. At least, and I hate to say at least, but my happiness was valued more than misalignment. So that's what I did, and here we are. What it really took was a change in environment for me to allow that growth to happen, and then obviously being a lot more detailed about my training and how I was executing, and honestly having higher standards for myself. And if I had those higher standards for myself, who knows where I would have gone in figure. But I didn't have that level, that bandwidth for discomfort at the time. So I just grew into it about a year ago. And now I can apply that here in the current division that I am training for. So, honestly, Ash, you exude. Sorry, you exude other divisions. I've actually forgot that you are in bikini.
I know when you were saying that, I was like, God damn it! Like,
I'm sorry. I mean, it's the truth. Like, you. That's what I'm saying. Do you understand what I'm saying now?
Yes.
Like, it's. I'm not saying you don't fit, but it's like you have the intensity of a bodybuilder, you know? And a lot of the smaller divisions just don't.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to. You have to as an athlete.
Yeah. And that's the thing where it's like, again, like I don't, like, when I say that, when I play the genetic card, like, it just sounds so weak, but that's the truth. It's like, it's not like Laura said initially, it's not the work ethic. It's like, I love training hard, but realistically, like, if you look at my parents, like, what I built, looking at my parents, dog, that's fucking impressive as hell. But at the end of the day, it's like, I don't have the potential to like make it in this sport. And when I finally realized that, like, I feel more at peace. So shit, my next check-in with Austin, I might be like, fuck bikini. Like, I want to be a big bitch and never step on stage, but at least love my training. But since we are talking about glutes, though, I do want to dive into glute training, since Brittany, that's your bread and butter.
Yeah. That's totally okay with me.
So I think like diving into your research, like what are some things that you learned along the way that kind of contributed to your success, or something where it was like kind of like a light bulb moment where you're like, ah, this is the way I'm going to get my big glutes?
Well, I think something that's to be said about glutes is that most people think that glutes are one muscle group, or they view them as one muscle group, but the fibers in the glute, especially like between the glute max and the other areas, have different lines of pull. The upper mid, the lower fibers respond best to just different hip angles. And so, how you're going to hit each is going to be shifting those dynamics and exercise selections. This is why hip thrusts alone won't build you the glutes that you're looking for. So, you need vertical, horizontal, lateral loading patterns. You need to understand them in both the lengthened and the shortened positions. So a lot of athletes are going to obsess over the squeeze at the top, and a lot of your coaching, is going to, when people look at training videos and all that, they're going to overemphasize the contraction. But hypertrophy is going to be just a lot more available when you are challenging them in their lengthened position. So when I give tempo for my athletes or for myself, or when I'm feeling like a movement is not quite getting the engagement I need, I will actually spend more time in the lengthened position. And it, especially when you're looking at unilateral movements, that's going to be really important. So like lunges, Bulgarians, stuff like that, really lengthening that time in the eccentric has really changed my training. Um, a lot of, I would say a lot of athletes will think that they need to do a lot of kickbacks. This is all stuff that is like very, I feel is common sense. I don't know. But for competitive athletes, glutes are going to require that progressive overload. So when I do programming for my athletes and myself, activation is important. But then also overloading with heavy compound lifts. So anytime you are focusing on glutes, you do need like at least 1 to 2 large movements that are going to be hitting them in the way that is biasing them the best. So light circuits are not going to be better as like neural primers. You actually like want to practice the larger movements that you're going to go into. So that's how you prime a movement. Um, and then I think something that really hit me too in some research is that there's a fiber type nuance within the glutes. So glutes are mostly fast twitch dominant. Mm-hmm. So you need a lot of power. So they respond to explosive work. They respond to heavier loading ranges, which is why those larger movements really matter, right? But that endurance component is still kind of significant. So mixing your rep ranges between 5 and 8, 12 and 20 for your like smaller movements like kickbacks can really maximize that total development. And then also realizing how often you need to train your glutes to make significant improvements. So you don't just, if you want something to grow, you don't train it and blast it 1 time per week, not even 2 times per week. I would say around the 3 time to 4 time per week range is probably going to be like more optimal for people that are wanting to make significant improvements there. But then knowing how to recover well and knowing what it looks like to take a step back and to have your rest days like planted in between. When I first started transitioning into wellness, I could like my recovery capacity, I could only handle like once every 2 days for training my glute training, because I was just not there yet. I didn't have the strength, I didn't have the endurance, and I didn't have the recovery capacity yet. Now I can do every other day. And honestly, if I hit quads, this is for like more so for wellness training, not necessarily like glute specific training, but I can maybe hit quads, 1 day and then hams another day now. But before I wasn't able to really focus on those areas mindfully within each session. So I would end up being sore all over, and you'll notice that you are more advanced in training when you can hit something that's nearby within a short amount of time, and that area specifically is taxed. And you can go the next day and hit another area that's nearby and tax that the same way. And that's I think people underestimate that. That's a really good marker for understanding how your engagement is and how the quality of your training is.
I like that. I like that.
For
Laura,
sure.
well, you have any questions?
No, I agree with that significantly. I think the biggest thing, especially for a division such as wellness, is like the way that your program is structured. Obviously, it's always going to be slightly dependent on the individual, but is how much you can recover from. So, like, specific things for specific days, so you can do something different within the lower body region the following day. I know you said you do every other day, and I have 4 lower days, but one day is solely quads, and then the following day is solely hamstrings and glutes, and being very mindful of not having overlap. And while you, like said, are sore in one area, you're not in another, so it makes it doable.
I think a lot of times people will know that they could get that same engagement in their upper body, but for some reason they're too afraid to double down on their lower body on areas nearby because the fatigue management is just so much greater because the body part or the part is a lot bigger. But it's definitely doable if you section it out that way. So like when I first started, like I said, I was every 2 days. Now I'm every other day. I could honestly do a couple days back to back at this point. I just prefer to continue to train every other day because it helps with my schedule and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Laura, when you were talking about your structure and just needing to add on more size, the thing that I love about wellness is that it's one of those divisions that if you can grow, you can be successful in it because the posing allows you to hide areas that are unfavorable in your physique that you don't want to show. And it allows you to kind of like manipulate things. Whereas in figure, like I said, it's more of a shape thing. So you're literally standing there with everything out. It's really tough to manipulate in a division like that. So for those that are kind of feeling like, I can't do this, take it from somebody like myself who is very normal in their genetics, I would say. I don't have crazy genetics. I just, over the last year, have found the correct formula to make this happen for myself. And once that happens, the progress was there.
I feel like one very underrated division for genetics is bikini. And the more I'm getting into that with athletes, the more I'm seeing it. It's not, can you grow? What's your shape? Whatever. It's how small your waistline is. And that is not something you can change. You can practice your vacuums, whatever the case may be. But like what your natural stance is what it is.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that as well. I think it's like it's always talked about over socials and even on commentary for shows, but bikini is a very streamlined look, and it's a very petite look. So for someone like myself, I've already like really been outgrown bikini. Even when I was in bikini, I know I looked small, but I had to come down so much to get to that point. And honestly, the ratio between my waist and glutes, it just didn't really make sense for the division anyway. And so and for somebody who has like who's very short, like I'm 4'11", so my height makes a lot more sense to compact like and to appear bigger because I'm more compact, especially in the quad area. And so I was like, well, I mean, if I I already have quads because I like look like this, so I might as well just grow there. And that has been really rewarding because I think I honestly love the look of wellness, and I appreciate the work that I've put into figure by focusing on my quads. So I was really happy to not have to adjust that and to kind of leave that on the table to try to get those smaller so that I can fit into bikini.
I'm so jealous of those, like, I guess you would say proportions. I'm only 5 feet, but I am like that one person that has like tall girl genetics. Like,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like long legs, long
Long
arms
limbs.
or
Mhm.
so. Every time
Mhm.
people meet me in real life, they're like, "Oh, I was expecting you like 5'6", 5'7". I'm like, yeah, no.
You definitely you look taller. I wasn't expecting that either. I did not
Yeah.
know you were 5 feet. I'm sorry if we
Mhm.
talked about it, but yeah, I didn't know.
No.
Yeah, dude, it's like I'm 5'7", and it's like I'm just leg and torso, and yeah, I have a small waist, but again, it's like going back to just like the shape and also the structure as well as the enjoyment. But it is one of those things like you play the cards that you're dealt, but also like just because you like to, you know, do well in a division, it's like you got to decide, are you going to have fun, or do you want to be successful, or can you do both? And it's like for me, like I'm just kind of tired of hitting legs 4 days a week. Like it's just it wears on you when you're not in alignment.
Mhm.
And of course, like again, like being 10 days post show, like making a decision like this, I don't think is fair
Yeah.
because you're not like you're still small. You know what I'm saying? You're small physically and you're small mentally, and it is something where it's just like let things settle down so that way you can make a clear and logical decision that is best long term. But
Mhm.
kind of circling back to glutes, Britt, I have some questions for you that I'm sure that even the listeners would love to know. When it comes to structuring a glute day, I know you already mentioned like tempos, especially the eccentric work. You mentioned, rep ranges for heavy compounds, there's small
Mhm.
accessory works. But when it comes to like exercise selection and programming, do you like to solely focus on like lengthened this day, shortened this day, or as
Mhm.
every single day kind of like a little bit of everything more frequently?
That's a really good question. So I like to focus on movement pattern.
Mhm,
So a hip hinge, like having a day where your main movement is your hip hinge,
mhm,
and not having another hip hinge during that day that's going to get in the way of your main movement, but maybe rather having something that is that allows you to focus on detail. So like a Bulgarian or something like a reverse lunge or an elevated lunge to where you're still stretching. You're still focusing on stretching the glute, but you're not necessarily overusing or taxing the low back for your hip hinge. So like so something like that, when I focus on quads, for example, like you're gonna have those quad biased quad bias squats. So anything that has to do with quads, like hack squats, that's going to be your main compound, or a pendulum, or even having a Smith would be solid because you're on one path of movement.
mhm,
So you don't need to adjust and readjust and continue to try to understand the differences between where you're engaging the glutes and the quads and all of that. So just focusing on that area. I will definitely go by movement pattern, because you're gonna if you're trying to build glutes and you're in wellness, you're gonna be overusing. It's it's just how it goes.
mhm,
So you really want to be mindful of recovery. Um, I think that there should be movements in the session that emphasize both the eccentric and the contraction in every session, because you do want to frequently challenge those areas, and you do want to frequently challenge that movement and practice it. Um, and for the most part, I think if I gave you a baseline on how I would structure, I would sorry, losing my train of thought. I would definitely want to make sure that there's two main movements and then you program around those movements. Does that make sense?
mhm,
So if you're gonna hit, like I'm looking at an athlete, okay, she needs upper glute. So I'm going to pick two movements that are her main movements that focus on the glute meat to make sure that she's getting that roundness, and then programming around that. So we could have a lunge, and then we have our other main movement, and maybe it would be an RDL. Then we would add in the kickbacks and then the abduction so that we
mhm.
can make sure that we're hitting that area. So
Do you when you're programming glutes, you typically like you doing the more accessory stuff later on as opposed to doing it more almost like earlier to recruit engagement?
yeah, so I will have priming movements that are a little bit smaller in movement, in motion, and then these smaller movements that you're talking about, I will layer them on at the end. So both, it's just each one is for a different purpose. Like Ash had just asked me a question about priming movements a couple days ago. And my response to her was that you do want to have the smaller movements in the beginning just to start priming, and then going off into the end and having them as your working sets. So
Yeah. And so, for example, I'll tell you how I did that, Laura, is I was going to do more of a upper glute focus, and we have a lot of toys at UFlex, which I really do appreciate. But I did have a movement pattern that one of my wellness friends was showing me where it was on the belt squat that was kind of like a marrying between a squat and an RDL, but really focusing on pushing the hips back and then driving through the hamstring. So it's kind of like a weird movement, but I really liked it. But I was like, even though it's not loading my back, I'm still standing up. So it's like I need to make sure that my feet are knowing where they are in space, as maybe dorky as that sounds. So what I decided to do to prime that movement was use the standing abduction so I could really focus on my feet, driving the knees out. But I really focused on lower rep range, but tempo, especially when I'm pushing those knees out. Like I think Britt's in her guide was like a 3-second hold at the maximum range. And I did that. And then I went ahead and did that belt squat RDL thing, and holy hell. Not only did I get better glute engagement, but like, I mean, y'all saw the pump. Like, I had Brittney repost that. Like, it was something where, yeah, don't chase the pump, but like, it was the engagement and quality of the session too.
yeah, for sure. I tell people, don't be afraid to have the same movements in the beginning, at the end of the session. Just like you wouldn't be afraid to have like the same meal that works for you. Right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same shit. Like, it's have a movement that gets you there so that you're ready for those larger movements. And then when you need to have that little extra that's pushing you over the edge later on, then add in those smaller movements again and see how that works. And honestly, a lot of times it really um, just assists that engagement portion and overall confidence with what they're doing prior to when they get into their main movements, because your main movements are going to be your bread and butter of your program. So you're just wanting to prepare for them, and then afterward you get into your detail and then you move on.
Yeah, and like the detail was still an abduction, but I was sitting down because like I just wanted to sit, quite frankly, and I didn't need to necessarily just worry about like my foot and my feet. So I was able to really connect more with like, again, pushing the knees out, really thinking about opening up the hips and squeezing the glutes. But the tempo was similar, but the eccentric was more emphasized versus holding it at the end range, but the rep range was higher. So instead of focusing on like 8 juicy, it was like the 12 to 20 upper range just to kind of finish out the session.
Makes sense. I
I
remember
think
when I first met Josh, I was like complaining how like my glutes didn't look the way that they wanted to, whatever. Okay, talk me through your glute training program, all that. And this was 3 years ago now. And I'm talking about all these compound movements, and he's like, "So what do you do for accessory work?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't like the foo-foo stuff. I don't do that." And he was like, "This is why your glutes suck." I'm like,
yeah, it's so crazy that I was literally just about to say there's a lot of things that I rejected earlier in my career, especially surrounding growth and what it would actually be like for me. And that was one of them, is that I rejected the detail. I rejected the shit that is actually going to help with those main movements. So the main movements are still important. Like they're the most important part. But without the smaller ones and without the ones that allow you to fully connect, your main movements will leave some effort on the table and some potential progress on the table because you're not focusing on the detail. I think that when you first start training, yeah, the point is to get really strong. The point is to not focus so much. It's just all you're doing is directing your energy to the larger movements and learning how to do them. But once you're ready for that, or maybe you've grown enough to get to a point where you're like, okay, let's go ahead and add on some effort and execution to the detail, that's when we want to do that. I think there's a time and place for everything. But yeah, when I was younger, I was like, I'm not doing that shit. Like, that's not going to actually help me. And I agree to an extent. It will help you earlier on to just focus on your large movements because you don't even have the mental capacity to focus on anything else yet. You're still learning. So focus on those areas and then add in the detail. and see how much better it gets, because that is what you're going to need to be able to progress. Is just layering on more detail, more effort as time goes, as your bandwidth for understanding what needs to be done grows. But you have to mature into it. Like, you don't just start bodybuilding or start growing or start training and you can do everything. You can't, because it's a learning process.
Right. It's like you're learning like how to even like feel like what a glute is. And it's like, especially when you are like brand new to when you go from working out and exercising to training, it is different. It has to be different, right? And you're likely going to feel things better at lighter weights just because you don't have that connection solidified yet. And like some of us still don't on certain movement parts that are maybe like lagging body parts. You know what I'm saying? So it's like meeting yourself where you're at is really important for context, and like learning to again fall in love with training and feeling of movement that is very, very difficult, and grasping like, okay, this is what the glute feels like when it's fully lengthened. This is what it feels like when it's fully contracted, when
Mm-hmm.
it is, at the end range of an abduction, right? Because like I can program for a new person like all of these kickbacks and it just looks like swinging, you know what I'm saying? And like that's not going to help us get to where you need to be. So like let's focus on like the hard shit, like the RDLs, learning to stay in the leg press and not fidget and do all of the things because you're so uncomfortable with pain. It's like you have to learn to love pain first, especially if you're doing glute training. Because let me tell you, you're going to experience a lot of pain with glute training because every other day, that is a big fucking order. And when you are going to train that hard, you also need to be smart with your recovery, which I do want to go into as well, because I do think that is such a slept on thing, even to this day and age, just because some people love movement because they're training every other day. They're like, oh, I need to be active rest day and do all the things on my training. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you need to be in a fucking wheelchair and like, moped around to, from the toilet to your laundry hamper or whatever. But like for
Mm-hmm.
crying out loud, like if you're getting 20,000 steps in every single day and you also want to be wellness, like then
Mm-hmm.
you need to adjust your expectations and know that your active rest day is the reason why your glutes likely still suck. And like that was something that I, had to suffer with and learn from my mistakes when I had a movement addiction, not a training passion.
Mm-hmm. I think that is super valid. And I want to talk about recovery as well. I actually have a day where I don't track any steps, and I try one day a week that I don't track any steps, and I focus on keeping my feet up
Mm,
because I have to. Like, I have to. I don't have, if I'm going to train every other day the way that I do, I have to have some type of rest that is asking more of me than still getting my regular like 7 to 10,000 steps a day plus, because I do still have cardio in the off season as well.
mhm,
Um, so I do have one day where I tell my coach, hey, like, I'm not doing anything.
mhm,
And that has worked really, really well for me. Every other day I try to get as little steps as I can, as is what is feasible for me,
mhm,
unless I'm doing something, and that's very intentional, because of the type of training that I'm doing, and I'm ending a push phase, a really big phase, honestly the biggest push phase I've ever done, and I had to get to that point. Now, once we pull back on training and I'm not doing like 3 top sets for most of my exercises and rest pause sets and drop sets, then I don't need to be as still. I think that sometimes people's recovery limits them
mhm,
because they don't know what actual recovery is. They're too afraid to sit still. And when you're training for wellness or a division that just requires big legs, or maybe you're trying to bring up your legs in another division, you have to know what is bringing you out of that recovery capacity.
mhm,
And so there are some times where I know that I'm doing too much and all I'm doing is getting like 8,000 steps a day, but it's because of how I train.
mhm.
So just being really mindful of that. You're not going to build glutes when you are overly focused on how many calories you're burning.
Mhm. And that's the thing, is being mindful, but that's the thing is like people are so like it's women mostly are so anxious, where the reason why they can't sit still is because when they sit still they're confronted with the truth, a
Mhm.
problem they're trying to run away from, themselves. Like that was my issue. And so it's like you have to understand what you ask of your body, and you have to get your mind on board. And like I know that sounds super woo woo, but again, like if you literally just can't sit on your ass
Mhm.
and enjoy it, like that's a problem too. And when you are an athlete, you have to recover like an athlete too. In the
Mhm.
same way that high level performing athletes in the NFL, because it's almost football season, and y'all know
Hey.
y'all know I'm freaking hyped to watch the
Yeah.
Bengals get their ass kicked this year. But Daddy Burrow, I believe in you. But it's
I
one
don't
of
know
those.
anything about
I was about
sports.
to, I can't even
That's
I just like the
okay.
culture, but I like the culture of
Mhm.
sports. I think the culture of sports is sick. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
I
Yes,
like the
but
Heineken
exactly.
commercials.
She's like, I like the commercials. You know what? That's fine. That's fine. But it is something where it's like these athletes, high level performing athletes, do things like, the mobility work. That's still fucking hard. Like mobility is no joke when you're doing it right. Like it's not
Mhm.
just this mindfulness, you're moving your body like Betty Spaghetti. Like, no, like hip internal rotation, that shit sucks.
Mhm.
But then also like, getting your body work done. Again, sitting still,
Mhm.
fueling optimally, not with like all of this processed bullcrap. Like making sure that you're also playing outside of, other areas of performance, right? Like that's something that I really admire about Brittney that she helped me with immensely was like playing. Like literally just like doing something for fun and not for evaluation and performance. And like that's brought me a lot of joy. And that's also helped me to lower my stress because I'm not evaluating every little thing that I ask of my body or ask of my mind.
Yeah, a limiting factor with real growth, especially lower body where it takes up a lot of nervous system energy, is that people sometimes will fall into the mindset that they can't train their glutes because they're sore, or they're sore and they're not recovering. But often the limiting factor here is just overall systemic fatigue. And when you're thinking about systemic fatigue, you're not just thinking about the body parts that you're working. You're thinking about the mindful aspect of nervous system fatigue, because remember, your brain is part of your nervous system, right? It is your entire nervous system. So play is one of those things that will help you with your growth because it actually rests your nervous system. And when you are always hitting legs, like myself, you have to have nervous system regulation because you're constantly being pulled out of it because you
Mhm,
are training so hard for an area that absolutely taxes you.
mhm.
And so there's a difference between my glutes are smoked versus like my nervous system is taxed. And we need to understand how to recover from that.
Hmm. It's funny that you say that because I had acupuncture yesterday because I'm a firm believer. And as much as like I don't like to admit it, I'm someone that really responds well to needles. So I had like honestly probably eight. I know, yeah, let's go. No, but it's like I honestly probably had 80 needles in my body yesterday, right? And while it's scary temporarily to have that much inside your body, I had the best training that I ever had today because both my body and my mind, like,
Yeah.
and that difference, right? And it's
Mhm.
like, especially again, being so close post show where like my body and my brain are both like still on high alert to just
Mhm.
feel at peace and to enjoy being in the gym. Like that is also a big gift to yourself. So I'm not saying you need to like spend oodles of money on all the recovery tools. One of the best things that you can do for your recovery is learn to sit still and find peace.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, dude. I mean, I think also just, we were talking about research earlier and understanding what type of fibers are the glutes, and our lower half is a lot of fast twitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that fiber type, but also the mix of it, um your lower body does recover faster than what you think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to unless you're getting sleep. It's not going to unless you're taking care of that nervous system withdrawal. It's not going to if you are not focused on investing in body work and investing in stretching and mobility and things like that. It takes more effort to recover from these things. I think when I first started transitioning from figure to wellness, my coach at the time, the first thing he said, because I have always had issues with my hips and adductors, like it's just, and it causes issues with my knees. So by the time I get to the end of a large push phase, we're smoked. Like we're done, and I need quite a few days off. I need like 5 days off, and that's going to be my my task for next week, which I'm really excited about. But the thing he told me was that your adductors are going to be fucked up all the time. And I was like, I'll make sure that they're not. And what I did was I chilled more between training sessions. I have not missed a body work session. I've stretched every day, and even so, I still know that I could probably focus on it more. But focusing on your recovery is going to be the difference between you actually growing the way that you want to and not.
Yeah. And then one like final thing to add in recovery is like, yes, nutrition quality is very important, but not only that, but making sure you're digesting and absorbing those nutrients properly, because it is something like going back to what we were talking about earlier about like central nervous system fatigue and dysregulation. Like if you were like just shitting out every meal, and you know what I mean by that, like your recovery is going to be gone. Like you're not going to have anything to recover from, right? So it's like making sure you're doing what makes sense and not just like pushing yourself into the ground because that's all you know. Like it's not about pushing yourself into the ground. It's about making the most of every rep, every set, every day. And again, like being an athlete and falling in love with the day-to-day monotony and journey, because that's what builds you up in like the most efficient way, and not trying to rush things because you're impatient, because again, you can't sit still.
Yeah, for sure. Love that. Yeah.
Love that. Good note to end on. And I know Laura's got to get out here soon, but we do like to end the podcast with just one fun question. So I want to know, what's a weird talent or skill you possess that most people don't know about?
Oh, dude. I don't see. This is the thing, is that I don't really feel like I have a talent or like a thing that I'm like just crazy good at. And I've always wanted that. I guess if I could tell you something that's unexpected for me is that I'm really, really good at like competitive Pokemon battling, and that's about it.
That's
like
that's still respectable. Like,
Like-
you know what I'm saying?
like I mean, like understanding what types of moves to use to get like a one-hit KO, or when you're like when you're competitively battling, there's so many ways to do it. And I would say that would be the only the only thing that I'm like very good at, but that's because I've read a lot.
But that's the thing, is like
stuff.
what people don't understand is like Pokemons have different types and weaknesses and strengths. And so it's like you have to know, like, and even moves have different like, you know, effectiveness for different types and stuff like that. So why that's impressive to me is, although that kind of dropped off for me, I don't know, when I was like 12 or something like that, because I got into something else. It's like, but you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, if I found my Game Boy.
Dude, no. What I'm telling you is that nowadays it's different.
I'm sure.
Nowadays it's like 40-year-olds are battling, and it's like playing chess. It's like playing fucking chess now.
It's like Queen Gambit, but you're like,
yes.
It's like, but you're on fucking Charizard. No, I love that. Laura, what about you?
I don't really I mean, the only thing I've ever been like naturally good at that I don't understand is long distance running. Like I was that person that could run like 7 miles in 6 minutes per mile.
That's sick.
And it wasn't like something I like trained for either. Like I was just always just something
Laura's
I was good at.
Yeah.
More surprising with being short, but yeah, no, that's the only thing I've ever been just like good at.
That's crazy. I mean, I feel like maybe 2 things where it's like, if I wanted to pursue this, I probably would get more out of it in life in terms of like what looks like success than bodybuilding, but like it's my play. So something that I'm weirdly good at and I've taken no classes on is baking, especially like baking cakes and doing that and being creative with it and doing like some funky stuff. And then also drawing bodies of people like in prep or their stage shots. I've had no
Really?
artistic training, but I, for some reason, like I can look at a photo, visualize the muscle, visualize it working. And I'm not saying it's like Etsy quality, but like you can tell it's a body, but don't ask me to draw a face. Do not ask me to draw a face because it's not happening.
You draw the body, I'll draw the face.
There you go. Like I said, we can start a business where it's like the upper lower half, but like I get a lot of enjoyment like looking at someone's physique and drawing it. Because even though like I'm not sculpting their physique, they've already done that. To me, it's just like appreciating the intricate level of detail of what they put in. And like that to me is special.
I love that. Whew.
Whew.
Good job,
Ladies,
ladies.
that was good. Brittney, thank you so much for your time today. Peachy, Baddie, Booty. I know I fucked up that order, but give me some grace.
How you gonna know you fucked it up and you just fucked it up anyway?
She did.
It's just, I'm human.
It's Peachy Booty Baddie.
Peachy, Booty, Baddie.
PBB.
Okay. I can
Sounds like
remember
food.
that. Yeah, I was like food, because eat that cake. Hey,
Yes.
Brittney, where can the people find you and listen to you?
You can find me on Instagram, Brittney Justice with 2 E's at the end, Brittney, Justice with 2 E's at the end. And then I also have my own podcast called Chase Real Dopamine with Ashley Jones. So that's my personal podcast with her. And then I'm also on the Matriarch Method with Ash Markham and Liz. How do I say Liz's last name?
Dude,
McClaney?
McClaney? I think
McClaney.
so.
I hope she's
They
not
need you to
listening.
clear some things up for them.
But I'm also on that podcast for female coaches and just empowering them. And yeah, that's all you can find me on for now. But
For
more
now.
coming.
Ooh, love it. All right, guys, until next time. Ladies, thanks so much. Laura, be safe in Italy. And Britt, I'll see you next week.
Yes.
All
Talk to
right.
you soon.
Bye.